On the night of December 27, 1948, the world's largest passenger aircraft, the Douglas DC-3, was taking off from Miami to Florida. There were 125 passengers and 9 crew members on board, a total of 134 people. At an altitude of about 8,300 feet over the North Atlantic Ocean, the aircraft was moving peacefully at a speed of 180 miles per hour. It was 8:13 p.m. In the cockpit, Captain Robert Miller and his co-pilot saw everything as normal. But suddenly, their contact with San Juan Air Traffic Control, or ATC, began to weaken. Captain Miller reported that they were facing a minor technical issue. That was his last voice transmission. Within exactly 10 seconds, the aircraft disappeared from the ATC radar forever. The plane's last location was right in the middle of the Bermuda Triangle. What happened that night was far more terrifying than a simple technical failure. The aircraft had become trapped in a vortex in the Bermuda Triangle, the most mysterious place in the world, a whirlwind that no one had ever heard of or seen before. In the blink of an eye, screams erupted inside the plane. Captain Miller tried with all his strength to control the aircraft, but by then it was too late. The storm had completely engulfed the plane and was spinning it like a toy. All the electronic equipment, the compass, the radar, everything had stopped working. The aircraft was no longer under human control. It was flying blindly at the mercy of the storm. After struggling in that deadly vortex for nearly half an hour, when the plane finally emerged from the storm, there was nothing but endless ocean in every direction. The engines were still not working, and the aircraft was slowly descending. That's when the co-pilot spotted an island ahead. It was an unknown, untouched island. Everyone knew that death was only moments away. The aircraft crashed into a gigantic old tree on the island. Hundreds of its thick branches trapped the plane like a net. And that was the miracle that saved the lives of 134 people. Although the passengers' lives were spared when the plane got stuck in the tree, it was the beginning of a painful journey. Groans and cries echoed from inside the aircraft. Captain Robert Miller, whose head had struck a panel, regained consciousness and immediately sprang into action. He calmed everyone down. A retired Army doctor on board, Evelyn Reed, wasted no time and began treating the injured. A total of 10 people were seriously hurt. Someone had a broken arm, someone a broken leg, and 2 people had deep head injuries. The rest were in shock, but safe. When everyone slowly climbed down from the aircraft, they realized where they had ended up. It was an island that did not exist on any map. Dense jungle surrounded them, strange trees and plants, and an eerie silence. The first and biggest challenge was water. Everyone was thirsty, but across the entire island, there was no sign of a river, stream, or any source of fresh water. Their only hope was rainwater. Using his experience, Captain Miller divided the people into groups. One group was assigned to retrieve food supplies, medicines, and useful items from the wreckage. The second group worked with the captain to build a temporary shelter for the night. Using broken airplane seats, metal sheets, and large leaves, they created a makeshift roof to protect themselves from the cold night and possible rain. That first night, as they sat huddled together, one question echoed in their hearts. Would anyone come looking for them? Would they ever leave this unknown place? The next morning brought new challenges, food shortage, and the need to make fire. The little food they had recovered from the plane would not last long. They had to find food on the island, but there was no way to know which fruits were poisonous and which were edible. In the process, a middle-aged man ate an unknown fruit and within a few hours died in agony. It was the first death on the island, shaking everyone to their core. After that incident, fear spread, and the first conflicts over limited food began. But Captain Miller and Dr. Evelyn handled the situation. That evening, a teenage boy who had an interest in science used the lens of his glasses to focus sunlight onto dry leaves. After hours of effort, a thin line of smoke rose from the leaves, and then a small flame ignited. Fire. It was nothing short of a victory. Fire was essential not only for cooking, but also for keeping wild animals away at night. Meanwhile, an engineer named Arthur Vance tried to repair the broken radio. After great effort, he managed to send a weak signal, transmitting their last known location and a message for help. But there was no response. The radio battery died, and their only means of contact was lost. Days passed. After 10 days with no sign of rescue, 4 boys and 1 girl lost patience. One night, while everyone was asleep, they secretly took a small boat made from wreckage and went out to sea. They never returned. What happened to them remains a mystery. After those 5 left, the remaining survivors realized they might have to stay there for a long time. Captain Miller gathered everyone and proposed establishing a permanent system. Work was divided. One team collected food and fruits daily. Another strengthened and repaired the shelter. Dr. Evelyn and others took care of the sick and injured. Meanwhile, the U.S. government launched the largest search operation in history to find the aircraft. Every corner of the Atlantic Ocean was searched, but not even a piece of the plane was found. After a week of continuous searching with no clues, the operation slowed down. Back on the island, the survivors began learning the art of survival. They sharpened stones and aircraft metal into knives and spears. Their biggest threat was wild boars that moved in groups and attacked the camp at night. A hunting trainer on board the plane taught them how to use spears and set traps. After days of planning and practice, they hunted their first wild boar. It was a terrifying and emotional moment. 2 people were injured during the hunt, but when they returned with the catch, it wasn't just food. It was a victory of unity and determination. They wrote the word help in large letters on the sand using broken coconut trunks, hoping a passing ship or plane might see it. 6 months had passed. To the outside world, Flight NC16002 and its 134 passengers had become an unsolved mystery. After spending $45 million, the U.S. government officially ended the search operation and declared everyone missing. Their families were told there was no hope of their loved ones returning. But on this unknown island, a new community was being born. The seriously injured slowly recovered under Dr. Evelyn's care and began helping with small tasks. However, illness and despair claimed a few more lives. Some people mentally broke down and died after seeing no way out. Now only 114 people remained. They began burying their dead with respect and supporting each other emotionally. At night, gathered around the fire, they shared stories of their old lives and sang songs. After about 1.5 years, the sound of a baby's cry echoed on the island for the first time. A young couple welcomed a healthy baby boy. His birth brought new hope to everyone. 2 years passed. They had learned to live on the island. They started small-scale farming and invented new fishing methods. But the desire to return to civilization still burned in their hearts. Under engineer Arthur Vance's leadership, they decided to build a large boat, their most ambitious project yet. After months of hard work using aircraft parts, wood, and vines, they built a strong boat. The day they launched it into the sea felt like a festival. 25 of the strongest and most experienced people boarded it, promising to return with help. The boat sailed a few miles from the island, but then the weather changed. Dark clouds gathered, and a violent storm struck. Massive waves capsized the boat. Only a few managed to swim back to shore. 16 people died in that tragedy. This was the biggest shock yet. 15 had already died from illness and despair, and now 16 more were gone. In total, 31 had died, and 5 had disappeared earlier. Now only 98 people remained. Many lost faith in survival, believing the island would be their grave. 5 years passed. Children born on the island knew nothing else. They had never seen cars, electricity, or cities. Adults told stories of their old world, which sounded like fairy tales to the children. But over time, cracks appeared in their society. Natural resources began to decline. Food shortages caused tension. They split into 2 groups. One, led by Captain Miller, believed they must keep trying to escape at any cost. The other believed this was their destiny and that attempts to leave only brought death. During a food search deep inside the island, an expedition team discovered ruins of an ancient broken civilization. Inside a cave near the ruins, they found a human skeleton. Beside it was a small rusted piece of metal that appeared to be from an old aircraft. This was proof they were not the first trapped on this island. The mystery of the Bermuda Triangle deepened. 7 years had passed. In the next 2 years, due to tension, food shortages, and illness, 16 more people died. Now only 82 remained. Hope was nearly gone. In the 8th year, a massive cyclone hit the island. Fierce winds and heavy rain destroyed their shelters and crops. Everything they had built was ruined. Weeks later, a powerful earthquake shook the island. Mountains crumbled, trees were uprooted. It was devastating, but unknowingly, it would become their salvation. The earthquake shifted the airplane wreckage that had remained in one place for years, exposing wires and equipment buried beneath it. A few days later, engineer Arthur Vance inspected the wreckage. Around that same time, a powerful solar storm occurred, affecting Earth's magnetic field. Perhaps because of that rare event, or because the earthquake reconnected some wires, a miracle happened. When Arthur pressed a switch on the radio, a faint static sound emerged. With trembling hands, he connected the remaining battery wires, and for the first time in 9 years, the radio's green light turned on. He grabbed the microphone and said in a shaking voice, "Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is flight NC16002. Is anyone listening? We are alive. We have been stranded on an island for 9 years." At Miami Air Traffic Control, an operator who heard the message could not believe his ears. When Arthur gave the aircraft registration number, the captain's name, and the flight date, silence filled the control room. The U.S. government immediately restarted the rescue operation. They decided to research every island in the area. 9 years had passed. One morning, one of the 82 remaining survivors saw a small dot on the horizon. It slowly grew larger. It was a ship, a U.S. Navy ship searching for them. At the sight of it, 9 years of pain and waiting burst into tears. People screamed with joy, cried, hugged each other, and ran across the sand shouting, "We're saved." When the rescue team landed on the island, they were stunned. The people the world had declared dead 9 years ago stood before them, tired, weak, but alive. Their return shocked the world. Families who had lost hope were reunited with their loved ones in moments too emotional to describe. 1 year later, in 1958, a book based on the survivors' experiences was published. It became one of America's best-selling books. It was not just a story. It was the painful saga of 82 souls who defeated death for 9 years and proved that even the smallest ray of hope can pierce the darkest darkness.